Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be, do women give second chances? In other words, if you totally blow your chances with a woman and she rejects you, stops returning your phone calls, tells you she wants nothing and more to do with you, is there still a chance down the road that you could have another chance with her? Obviously, preferably, once you've read my book and you figure things out. Well, the chances are slim to none, but it is absolutely possible. But it's rare. And I'm going to tell you in a second about an experience that I had where I screwed up with a woman, and it was about 4 years later where I ran into her again. But by this point, I had done the work on myself, and I had figured out where I was screwing up and where I had gone wrong. So I got a second chance with this particular woman. Now, the danger that a lot of guys fall into is because we men tend to be egocentric and ego-driven. And so when we get turned down or rejected, we always want to find a way to make up for what we had done wrong in the past or where we went wrong so we can fix things. But the problem it's like I can't believe the amount of guys that do this, because I used to do the same damn thing. It's like you get fixated on one girl. You think that if you could just say the right thing or do the right thing, she'd change her mind and she would be yours. Now, the mistake when you do that is obviously you get hung up on one woman and then you stop meeting and interacting with other new women. And there's a great girl out there that's just waiting to meet you, but if you're fixated on something or someone that you can't have, then there's no way you're ever going to meet this person that's available to you, because even if you did run into her, you wouldn't even look at her or notice her as a candidate because you're so fixated on what you can't have. And so I got a quick email here from a guy who, I guess he blew it before he found my book, and now he's obviously looking back and trying to figure out what he could do differently. So he says, Corey, I've heard some of your YouTube videos and I like what you have to say. I do have a question though. Is it possible to get back a woman you like after you've been needy? I like this woman. We've hung out a bit for about 4 months and the texts and conversation has stopped. I've been examining my life and my life with her and she's drifted. That's my only question. I like to hear your input. Well, I mean, obviously, if she's no longer calling you and texting you, then you've obviously done enough to turn her off to where you basically don't have a chance with her at this particular point. However, human beings, when we tend to think about the past, especially when it comes to relationships, is that we actually tend to look through the past through rose-colored glasses. And so as time goes by, or I should say the more time goes by, negative events, negative things that happen, we tend to forget those and we forget the negative charge on it. So it's totally possible 6 months, a year, a couple of years from now, you run into a woman that you may have gone out with on a couple of dates and then you blew it. She's not going to really remember why she stopped going out with you or stopped calling you or whatever. Because in time, that stuff just fades. But the key is I don't think it doesn't sound like you've read my book yet. So read the book, and you want to read it a dozen or so times to the point where you literally get to know the information so well you could give a seminar on it. Because you need to know all the things that you've done in the past that caused you to turn her off, or any other woman for that matter. And so by learning where you went wrong, you can do things right, so you can be ready in case you bump into her or maybe some other girl that you've done things wrong with in the past. But the key is that if you've done things wrong in the past, you're going to have even a smaller window or margin of error to get things right. And so I had this situation. This was in the 90s, actually. I met this girl, just instantly was totally infatuated with her. Just absolutely gorgeous girl. But she had a boyfriend. And I got to know her over the course of several years. She worked at this popular bar or restaurant I used to go into a lot with my buddies. And, she had a boyfriend. And anyways, make a long story short, I ran into her one time. And it was, a year and a half, 2 years after I'd gotten to know her. And she'd actually broken up with this guy finally. And so she was available. So I asked her out. And we went out and we had this great, amazing date. And I knew she said she was going out of town, and I guess I didn't pay attention. And I thought it was just for the weekend. And so after a few days went by, 3 or 4 days, when I assumed she was back in town, I sent her an email. I can't remember if I was asking her out or I was saying, hey, get in touch with me. Anyway, several more days go by and I don't hear from her. I'm thinking, what the fuck? Why'd she blow me off? And so then I write this email that, basically let her know that I was not happy that she hadn't returned my email and had blown me off. And so I write this nasty email to her. And then like 4 or 5 days go by and I get this email out of the blue, and basically what had happened was she was out of town on a trip with her friends. She was actually on spring break and had gone to New Orleans. And so I'm reading this, I'm realizing I had this great date with this girl that I wanted for all these years, and I totally fucked it up because I was needy and I was insecure, and I became impatient. And so I completely blew it. And then about 4 years later, I was out, and this was after I had done a lot of work on myself, and I was actually starting to get things right when I had was dating her and blown it, but I still screwed it up. But by the time I had run into her again, I knew what I had been doing wrong, obviously, and so I was ready. Not that I was ready for her. I figured I'd never get another chance with her. So I'm out downtown one night with a buddy of mine, and she's got this beautiful dark black dress on, and she just fucking took my breath away. I hadn't seen her in probably 3-4 years, and I just remember thinking, God, I forgot how beautiful she was. she just sucked the air out of my lungs. She was so intoxicating. But I maintained my composure, and I chatted for a few minutes, and my buddy and I, we were on our way somewhere, and I just happened to notice her, and we chatted for a few minutes, and so we went on. I was like, hey, I got to run, but it was nice seeing you again. And I didn't even think about asking her out, and I didn't want to because I knew, I know she probably still had my email or she knew where I worked because at the time I was doing a lot of advertising on TV, and so she knew, and plus she was in radio sales, and so she knew how to get in touch with me if she wanted to. And so this was like a Friday, and as we were turning the corner, my buddy happened to be looking back, and he says, dude, she's still standing in the middle of the road, just with this look on her face like, I can't believe you talked to me for a minute or two and then just walked away. And I didn't think anything of it. And I figured, hey, you know what? If I have any kind of chance, she'll get in contact with me. And sure enough, I think it was like Monday or Tuesday. This was like a Friday night we ran into her. I get an email from her. And so obviously, at this point, I know where I had screwed up in the past, and there was no way in hell I was going to let another opportunity go to waste. So to make a long story short, I got a second chance with this particular girl, and I did everything right with her. And it was awesome. But the only reason it happened was because I was prepared, because I had learned the things that obviously you can read about in my book, and I had applied it on enough different women to where I learned how to show up and how to be natural and how to create attraction and how to do all the things right where at one time in the past I had done things wrong. And so if you got a girl out there that you screwed up with, and you're, especially like a lot of guys, they read my book and they start thinking about all the women that they could have had that they screwed up with because they realized where they went wrong. And the key is not to go back and start heating up leftovers or trying to rekindle things with girls where things went sideways. The key is to focus on applying this stuff on new women so you can get to the point where you're comfortable and you do everything right. So in case you do happen to run into one of these old girls that you messed up with in the past, you'll do everything right now, and then you'll be able to get her the second time around instead of blowing it. So if you find this message of value, you can show your appreciation by going down to the Wibbia toolbar, which is at the bottom of your screen if you're watching this video on my website, and click the PayPal donate button and donate any amount that you feel is equal to the value of the information in this video. At the very least, please share this page with all your friends and family by clicking any one of the social network sharing buttons, which are also located on the Wibbia toolbar at the bottom of your screen. And if you have a question that you want to ask me, or there's a topic that you'd like me to cover in a future video newsletter, click the Contact Me tab on the left-hand side of your screen and just send me 3 or 4 paragraphs detailing your situation or your questions, and just give me several days to get back to you with a response, because I get a lot of email from the internet And obviously I got to focus on my paying phone coaching customers' emails first. But just be patient, I will get back to you. And if you want to talk to me right away, you can book a paid phone coaching session with me personally by clicking the Products tab, which is located at the top of your screen, and just follow the instructions. And I will talk to you soon.